If you read the title and were confused by who Mike Klubnika is, he's the creator of the brilliant and widely popular game called Buckshot Roulette, which I made a video about upon its release that you should go watch. And recently I've been playing the multiplayer mode for Buckshot Roulette since it was released for the game recently, but today I'm going to be exploring all of his other works. A lot of these works consist of short horror ideas, but even if it is short, they're really, really good. So sit tight as we explore a whole lot of horror games. I'll see what my favorite one is. Infineural opens with a bus that drops you off at a place called Infineural Innovative AI Solutions. You are there because you signed up for the Infineural Eternal CAPTCHA program. There's a poster on the wall that talks about what that is. The procedure takes the test subject's body, transfers the brain to some durable body, I guess. Nothing much is said about any other part of the process. Only that 1 minute of staying in this warp drive machine is equal to 10 years. Before you begin, you need to have taken the necessary supplements, which leads you to an important decision. Drink the coffee or don't drink the coffee. Either route will lead you into something different. Choose yes, then you zip straight through it. You're not going to know what went on during the procedure, and you wake up not knowing. Following this route, you are met with another participant of the warp drive outside. Talking to him, he explains that it's been 50 years, but to the both of you, it felt like 5 minutes. He explains that there were participants who remembered everything and unalive themselves soon after it was over, and the story ends there, with you not knowing what happened and you continue your happy life. This ending flips if you choose not to drink the coffee. Choosing not to drink the coffee will have you do everything yourself. You're put into this rib cage that holds you in place as you're sent down into the abyss. You are then put into the warp drive, but this time you're conscious of the whole thing. You wake up and set before you is an IBM PC that flashes up questions. Answer 1 and you have 8,999,999 more to go. Answer a question wrong, 50,000 questions are added to your quota. And once you finish, you're free to leave and see a beautiful sunset. What is revealed on the way out is that there are a ton of these cubicle office-like spaces all around you. In the end, you never find your place in society and choose to unalive yourself. And that's ending 2. Now, there's a lot to unpack from this game, and it turns out there is a strong inspiration for this game, that being Stephen King's short story, The Jaunt, where the main scare is the thought of not knowing what happens when you're unconscious. This game gives pretty much a unique perspective of that, and it really makes you wonder. Control Room Alpha puts you in this control room with the window showing a sewer lid or something. Once you put on the headphones, the game begins as the person congratulates you on your new job.
My name is Konstantin, and I will be your supervisor for this shift. Let's start by opening up the nest covering, and then we can get down to business. Your controls are hot, operator.
Press the red button, and the lid opens. You are then tasked to pick up containers from inside the nest and put them into one of the 4 holders. By the way, if you don't like spiders, you're not going to want to play this.
Right. Okay. This is not your fault. The crane seems to be broken. I'm afraid Mission Control will not be happy about this. So, just go down there and put the sample into the case yourself. Don't worry about the thing, comrade. Most of the creatures that came out of that nest are harmless.
Oh yes, they're harmless. Crazy thing to say when one of them put a crack on the glass. Now you're forced to go down the elevator, and the walk to the vial is very unsettling because your surroundings are dark and you don't really know where the spiders ran off to. Once you get back, the guy has something to say.
We might not have gotten all the sample, but for the first time... What? What is that?
I thought this game was pretty cool and it had a cool idea to it. It pretty much encapsulates this feeling of protectiveness when you're isolated in a room from all the danger that's out in front of you. But once that spider cracks your glass, you start to feel that sense of safety lessen. It's not until you go out to get the vial where you feel the most vulnerable, as anything is out to get you at any time in this void-like darkness. And once you get back to your sense of safety, it is broken once again when something odd occurs. The other side tells you that you shouldn't think or talk about going outside. Out there is death. Out there is nothing. You're in a metal box and you're trying to get out. To do so, you have this drill that tends to malfunction. This game is very quick and simple. You put the drill wherever the holder is, and it'll break sometimes, but you have the tools around you to fix it. And there's a few things that could cause it to break. One is the drill, which has you get a key thing to release the broken drill and allows you to put a new one in. The next is the battery, which will die and needs to be recharged. And finally, the coolant and oil, which has you unscrew the top and pour these canisters into their respective slots. Once you go over these things in the first layer, you have to drill for a second layer. But this time you need to hurry, because the security is now after you, and you have 5 minutes to break out. This had me freaking out because I thought the drill was moving way too slow. But once I managed to break out, I was welcomed by sunlight, the bright blue sky, and a lone tree. On that tree, there's a note that says, "This place isn't what it... whoever wrote that died, and I'm next." Tartarus Engine starts off with text that may or may not be linking all of these games together, talking about heaven and earth, exploitative machines, and all that. You start the game in an elevator going down, where you and two other people are trying to get to the Tartarus Engine. In the ride down, they explain that the data rack that they've brought will allow them to use the Tartarus Engine and control it. They explain that the simulation will allow for travel for however many years, while on Earth, only a few seconds pass by. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? Your job in this mission is to put the data rack into one of the partitions. Once you do so, you go back to the elevator and you get to a room where you're met with your crew. In this room, there's a whole bunch of restraint chairs, but the guy operating the computer tells you to hop into one and trust that the code he put in works.
I don't understand. They managed to translate the nature of consciousness into mathematics and recreate it in a digital interface, yet they use it for this. What even is this?
Once it's confirmed it works, he puts in the amount of time that will pass. And it turns out, this guy didn't even write the code himself. He borrowed it. Whatever code that was ends up not being the best decision, as they're now stuck in an infinite loop, moving in and out of layers. I thought this was the most confusing plot, but to me it's like these people are greedy for their time. They want to get as much done as they can in only a matter of seconds. And this is what they do in Tartarus Engine, and this is what they did in Infineural. Buckshot Roulette. Before I forget that this is one of his games too, I'm going to put it right here. I've done a full video on it already. In short, it's very fun and addictive with its scary dealer and great strategic gameplay. It was going to hit my top 3, but I really like this next one. Unsorted VHS is one of the coolest ideas for a horror game. It features snippets of a story through different VHS tapes. Your job is to put these tapes in and play them. Each of them have their own name and lead to a different scene. The first one I watched was the Cabin Anomaly Investor Briefing, which shows brief images of cabins explaining that there's some kind of teleportation anomaly, where once you close a cabin door, you're teleported somewhere. Come to find out, one of the cabins is actually missing. Where it went is a mystery. With that information, I went to the security room tape to see what was up. In this tape, a security room sits in the middle of nowhere. Going in, there's a PC, which tells me to insert a disk, which can be found in this drawer, and it asks for a code. This code can be found in the looker tape. You find a key on this random rock, go to the basement of the house, and try not to get scared of the guy running around. You get a flashlight at the end of the hall, and when you see where the guy ran to, you're instead met with a PC that has a message for you. Put the cabin anomaly on full lockdown. The access code is 4142. So now you're tasked with going back to the security tape, putting the code in, and now you're able to access the bloodied cabin anomaly tape. In the tape, you're met with a lab where you get a look at what is happening. These researchers are trying to move the cabins as a revolutionary way of transport. Sounds like some other games that are on this list. You turn on the lights to realize that these cabins aren't in the wilderness. It's an experiment. You can now test what happens when you enter a cabin and close the door behind you. You are now in some creepy void or alien type of thing with this paper having some plans to construct some kind of communications tower. Along your walk back, you find out the missing cabin was here all along. Which takes you to a bloodied version of the lab. Once you walk into the door with red light, you're met with the person who is going through some VHS tapes. It's you, and it ends there. It's so trippy that I can't really fully wrap my head around what happened at the end. But aliens are scary, and this game did a really good job at making me feel uneasy. This game also showed me how good the developer is at playing with the darkness, because at times I was so scared of what would come out of the darkness, and it's done very well here. Concrete Tremor is a banger of a game. This might very well be my third or second favorite game of the bunch. You start the game getting some kind of slop for food, and you sit down next to these guys chatting it up.
Do you see from your room? What do you see? All I see is a wall. You know someone picked the roof and rats, right? Really? Yes. So, where are we? I have no idea.
You decide to check the roof to see whatever wall they're talking about. You look up, and a helicopter is ready to drop missiles. Turns out, you were just playing as a pawn in a game of Battleship, and now you're in the perspective of the guy who's gonna drop the bombs on these guys. The rules for this game are simple. You have 5 shots per turn to sink different orientations of buildings. First to destroy all of them wins. Now, I didn't really get it at first, but once I took the first shots, I knew what I was doing. I did very badly at this game, and I was missing almost every shot. That was when someone called me.
Hello, I am from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. I am terribly sorry. It seems there has been a mix-up. You are not supposed to be here. You will be evacuated. Oh my god, really? Yes. I just need to know which building you were in. It's building. Please, thanks.
Now, I didn't really think about the guy who was so excited to be evacuated as I blew up his entire building to dust. I just wanted to win. I ended up losing. But yeah, this game is very fun. Just add some items and different building shapes, then I'm playing this game every day. It was sad to see the perspective of those who were caught in the middle of it though. I feel like it's a metaphor to some of the other games on the list, but I'm sure there's like some theories of this somewhere. But yeah, this game is a banger. Rest in peace, guy from F6. All of these games have been bangers so far, but Carbon Steel is probably my most favorite one. You start out in this tram that drops you off in this prison cell where your job is to pull out some organisms from the pit. Then you hit it with anesthesia and send it to the scientist. After you do your job, you get to go to bed. What a great reward for such hard work. At first I didn't really know how to start, but you hold on this lever which brings up the organism from the pit. The console will tell you information about the specimen and you have to create an anesthetic based on that information. And let me tell you, that was so freaking fun. Whatever was inside that vessel must have been terrified, because once you create the anesthetic, you put it in this machine that puts it into the hole, which will allow you to take the specimen into this canister to be sent off to the scientist. When you go to sleep the first night, you have a nightmare where the specimen is bulging out of the vessel with its gross eyes, foreshadowing that something's up. Each day you wake up, there's a new mechanism for you to use. On the second day, it's the identifier, and the main thing you get from the second day is a message from one of the engineers who says that you're in danger. That on the third day, there will be a canister with an X on it to give to the scientist. Once you get to the third day, you're given a time trial where if you take too long to make the anesthesia, the vessel bursts. So you have to use this drill to keep it from bursting while completing the anesthetic formula. Once you finish that, you're given 2 options. Give the explosive canister to the scientist or don't. If you do, you escape from getting turned into a test subject. If you don't, explode them. And that's when I realized that I've been giving these anesthetics to what may have been other humans. twist, let me tell you. This game became my favorite because the task was very interesting, and the plot was very interesting as well. But there you have it. Carbon Steel is my favorite horror concept of the Mike Klubnika collection. And let me tell you, it was hard choosing one because they are all such brilliant and thought-provoking games. And of course, playing through them, I noticed some connections between the games. And maybe they take place in the same world or something. I don't know. If there's lore there, let me know. I love lore. But I hope you found some interest in the works of Mike Klubnika, because there's a lot. But that's all for me today. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing.